From Anchored in Faith Gospel Church in Oxford, Iowa, this is Anchored in Faith.
Remember the last time we talked about Israel, she's doing what she does best, and that's backsliding. You know, God's brought them out of the wilderness. He's done all these miracles for them, and yet they're in the land. They're settled in the land. They've conquered most of the land. We said they didn't drive out everybody. They were supposed to. But they're already, going through their cycle of apostasy, and then God sends some nation to put them in bondage, like in this case the Midianites or the Philistines or the Hittites. One of the nations around them, God will raise them up and send them to put Israel under the yoke. And then when she cries out for deliverance, he'll raise up a deliverer, like Samson was one, and of course Gideon, Deborah and Barak. There's a whole group of these people in the book of Judges, and they're judges. They're people that God's raised up to lead Israel in time of crisis. So, and before we think that this is just some story from a long time ago, the church pretty much does the same thing. We're in an age where anything goes in the church. You don't have to look too far to see some of the stuff that's going on in these churches. And the reason most of them do what they do is to keep this place filled up. Because they have big budgets, they have to make payrolls, they have to pay for buildings, and probably God didn't really call them to do what they're doing. Now, I don't have a problem with, having we like to have a lot more people, but, I just wonder if some of these churches are really what God wants. There's a church in Anamosa we used to go to. They were talking about building a church of 5,000. Now that's in Jones County. I don't think there's 5,000 people in Jones County. I don't know, but it just didn't seem like, that was, I didn't get any witness of it. And the other thing is, there's two churches in Cedar Rapids with the same organization that are struggling. Now, to me, if I was an overseer, I would say, you know what? We need to get all three churches built up, not just mine. And, so that's kind of what's going on. But some of these big churches, they're not teaching anything. Nobody's getting changed, their lives changed. They're in church, they can say that. Oh, I'm in church now. Oh, great, But their lives aren't really being changed. They have some job, they give them a job, and they walk in the door. Oh, you can be a usher, you can be a Sunday school teacher, without even knowing if they know anything about the Bible. They let them do this stuff, And so, anyway, our day isn't much different than Israel's, because in their day, they had the worship that was given to them by Moses that they were supposed to be practicing, and yet we see that Gideon's father had an idol of Baal on his property. He had a grove of trees. Now they worshiped in a grove. That was part of the idolatry, was certain trees were sacred to certain gods, and they would have a grove of trees and put the idol in there and worship it. So that's what's going on. And of course, Gideon is chosen. The angel of the Lord comes and says, Gideon, you great man of valor. And he's like, me? Because he's not a soldier. Israel's not even have an army. And yet God is calling him to this task. Now, we asked last time, how many of you here would ever thought when you were high school or whatever that you would ever be in a church doing what you're doing. I can say I never thought that would ever happen to me, and I'm sure all of you, or most of you, even if you grew up in church, you know, you may not have seen yourself where you're at today and doing what you're doing. So God always sees the end. See, he sees down the road, and he sees what Gideon's capable of doing, and he calls him that, even though Gideon doesn't see it. He says, you are what I say you are. So you are what he says you are. You know, if you're a pastor, then you're a pastor. You know, if you're a teacher, you're a teacher. That, even though you can't see it when he says it to you, it doesn't mean that it won't be worked out to happen. So that's what's happening with Gideon. He tested God. You know, he made the sacrifice. It was burned up and all of this. And we talked about the fleeces, or we will get into that. But we want to start with verse 25 in chapter 6. And, it says that, and it came to pass the same night that the Lord said unto him, take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father hath, and cut down the grove that is by it. Now he's telling him to go tear down the altar of Baal and make a sacrifice. Now, you know, Gideon, when he was first called, he asked God, he says, you know, why have you sent all of this upon us? You know, if you're God, and, you know, why are we under the Midianites? Why are they, you know, conquered us? Why are they occupying the land? Here's the answer. You've got an idol of Baal in your dad's backyard. How about that? You're worshiping another god. Now, what's the first commandment? Have no other gods before you. And so they're violating that one right there, regardless of what else they're doing. And that's what happens when we, you know, put things before God. We're violating the first commandment. We're having other gods before us. And so that's why God has raised up the Midianites to put them under bondage. So he's telling them to go wreck your father's altar, tear it down, and cut the grove of trees down and make a sacrifice. Sacrifice a bullock on the altar of Baal. Now that shows that Baal has been conquered. That's what he's trying to show. And so he says, in verse 26, and build an altar unto the Lord thy God upon the top of the rock in the ordered place, and take the second bullock and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which thou hast cut down. So he wants the trees that were in the grove to be used as the wood for the fire, for the sacrifice. This is showing that God's destroyed this place of worship for good. And he says, and Gideon took 10 men of the servants and did as the Lord had said unto him, and so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, he did it by night. So he was afraid that there would be some retribution here, because evidently his father was kind of a leader in this worship. And they were coming to his property to worship, and he was well known, he was leading this, and so he was afraid that the other men in the city would come after him for destroying the altar. So he did it at night. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it. And the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. And they said to one to another, who has done this thing? And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, hath done this thing. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, bring out thy son, that he may die, because he hath cast down the altar of Baal, and because he hath cut down the grove that was by it. And Joash said unto all that stood against him, will ye plead for Baal? Will you save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death whilst it is yet morning. If he is a god, let him plead for himself, because one hath cast down his altar. Now, if you look at this, this is almost the same thing that when Elijah was confronting the priests of Baal. Remember, the priests were cutting themselves, they're weeping and wailing, they're crying out to their God. They have this big contest that's going to happen, and they're crying out to their God to show himself, and nothing happens. So what does Elijah say? He says, where's your God? Where's your God? How come he's not showing up? And so it's the same thing here. He says, let Baal plead for himself. Let Baal show up and defend his altar. Well, no Baal. Now, I just want to say something here, just kind of off the subject, but not really. There's people out here that watch our show, or watch our service program. And a lot of them, they look in for different reasons. They look in to see see us swinging from the chandeliers, whatever we do. And some of them actually are hungry. And some of them are into things that are of the occult. And so they look and see what the Christians are doing, see if there's any power. Well, you know what? The people that think that they're hooked up with the devil are going to find that the devil's going to leave them high and dry, just like Baal. He's not going to show up when you think he is going to show up. He's going to leave you. He's going to drop you, and just like Baal. So a lot of people who think they've got this power from Satan, I'm telling you, that's for them out there. There's going to come a day when you'll have nothing, because the devil is a liar. He's stringing people along, he's got them, and he's going to abandon them because he's going down and they're going down. So that's just a little comment to them, because they know who they are. They're looking, they're laughing, they're making fun. They want to, try to shut this down. They think they've got some kind of connection, but they don't have what they think they have. So enough of that. But Baal, it doesn't show up. Just like in Elijah's day. He didn't show up. Same God didn't show up. So then God manifests his power and burns up the sacrifice in Elijah's situation. But he says, therefore he, on the day he called him Jerubbaal, saying, let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar. So he's calling his son a different name, which just means, will Baal plead for himself? And he's got this reputation now as someone who has destroyed this altar. So his father, who's kind of wishy-washy, he's pretty wishy-washy, he knows about the worship, the true worship. But he's got this idol. Because, how people are, they want to hedge their bet. People, we've said it many times, 1 foot in the world, 1 foot in the church. On the fence, lukewarm. They got, just never know, this little deal over here might be the real thing, but I can always go to God. And see, Israel did that. They said that they had the temple of the Lord. Jeremiah says, you say you have the temple of the Lord. And they say, look at us, we're God's people. We have the temple. The temple had been built. The temple of the Lord. And yet, they were doing all sorts of things in secret. Now, they were really doing things in secret. They had all sorts of pagan rites going on under cover, and they were worshiping all the idols of the nations around them, and then yet they were going to the temple and going through the motions of the law. So we see this the whole time throughout Israel. They do this all the time. And in the modern church, we have the same thing. You know, they want the world and they want Jesus. And so, that's why so many people don't want to come to church. Oh, well, they say, well, I know people who go to church, and they're smarter than we are, a lot of them. They say, they're just, I'm just as good as them. My ethics and my morals and what I do is just as good as the church people. The only difference is you go to church and I don't, but I'm just as good as you. And a lot of times, they're right. A lot of times, the Christian's testimony, has been compromised somewhere. And I'll just say this, a lot of times where we lose the battle is in the workplace. That's been my experience. Because we go to work, and what do? What does the Bible say? You're supposed to pray for those who have the rule over you. That means your boss. That means the people in the government. That means the cop on the beat, whoever. You're supposed to pray for those people and cooperate as much you can and do a good job. And so many times, Christians are just like the world. We cuss the boss. We gossip. We, stick things in our pocket and take them home that don't belong to us. We don't give a go, oh, now, okay, I know I'm getting bad. But, come on, guys, that's where we lose the battle a lot of times. We talk like the world. We act like the world. We do everything just like them. And so we have compromised. And that, to me, is one of the biggest places that Christians lose their testimony, their battle, is in the workplace. Because, you're working for this company. You want to get along. We do. We should want. We don't want to be a troublemaker. We want to be a good worker. We want to be a good employee. We want to do a good job, do whatever we do. But, sometimes to do that, especially if you're trying to get ahead, you have to compromise. And so many Christians will compromise to get a promotion or get a raise or get a different job. And so, we lose their battle a lot of times in the workplace or in the marketplace when we go to the store and we have a bad attitude and we get nasty and we get mad at the clerk or something, and we could just walk away instead of having to have the last word. That's where I like to have the last word, But you have to think about that. It's not the big stuff, getting caught running around with somebody's wife or drunk or doing drugs where the Christians lose their battle. It's the everyday stuff that we do, that people watch. Like Linda said, they watch you. They watch you. And if you're consistent, they'll come to you and they'll say, will you pray for me? I've had it happen to me. Tana's had it happen. Other people have had it. If you're consistent, they'll come to you and they'll see that you got something real. But if you're not, of course, then you're just another church member. So anyway, that's, Israel and the modern church are very much alike. Because even within our church today, we have people that are faithful, just like in Israel. You don't always see them, but they're there. And God knows who his people are. So, he's always going to have a faithful remnant. When Moses was praying, when Israel was rebelling about going in the wilderness and stuff, God said, I'll destroy them all and raise up another nation from you. And Moses says, nope. He says, you take me with you. He says, if you destroy them, you destroy me too. But he's going to have a people somehow. If he has to raise up, I don't know. Well, let's see. What could we? I don't even know what he would do. But I mean, if he wants to bring them in, he'll find people with rings in their noses and purple hair and whatever else. He'll have a people. If we won't do what we're supposed to do, then he'll have somebody else. And so, because God's going to save a people and show the world who he is and what his power. That's what Israel was supposed to do, was to point the people to the nations of the world to God, the true God. And they didn't do it. They acted like the other nations. And so the church of our day is acting like, we have churches that are saying, we have to be like the Muslims. We have to bring in Muslims and have them teach and stuff. Islam is a false god. Islam is a moon god. That's why all the Islamic nations have a crescent moon on them. They're worshiping a lunar god. Allah was one of their gods. And so they want them in, at our churches and we've got to, come to some kind of, agreement. And no, we don't. They're not worshiping the God of the Bible. And everybody's afraid to say that because what? Might lose their tax exemption, might go to jail. Oh, I don't want to go to jail. Jesus went to jail. Paul went to jail. Peter went to jail. All the apostles got thrown in jail, beat up. We're not any better than they are. If Jesus said if they hate you, they're going to hate me, they're going to hate you. So that's the message. That's not a fluffy, nice message, but that when people come in the church, they should be told that. Listen, we love you, we want you here, we're glad you're saved, but you know what? You got a big old target on your back. You might as well just paint one right on your back, because when you walk out of here, it's, 3 shots for a nickel, man. Just like the carnival. They're going to start, the devil's coming after you. So we don't do that. Everything's going to be fine and you won't have no more problems and, it's all going to be good. And it's not. Your problem's just starting. And nobody wants that. That's hard. Everybody wants relief from their problems. And Jesus has it. But what did he say? He said, with persecution. So, that's the message for the day. Just like the prophets in the Old Testament. What was their message? Repent. All of them. Repent. Turn back to God. Go back to the old ways. And what happened? They got killed. And you don't hear anybody saying repent today. What do you hear? You hear, prosperity. Give me $10, you'll get 100. Whatever. That's all you hear. And so, there's very, very few true prophets in the world today. There's a lot of people running around saying, I'm a prophet. But most of them don't pass the test because they don't have the message and they're not willing to take the persecution. What did Jesus say? You killed them all. You killed all the prophets, and you're going to kill me. That's right. I'm next. Yep. You put them all to death, and I'm next. Of course, Jesus was a prophet, among other things, but he was right, and they didn't want to hear that, because they were God's chosen people. And our country, which I said before, we've had the gospel for 300 years in this country. And what have we done with it? We're not a very good example for the rest of the world because, we're just not. We could talk all day about all the stuff that's going on, but that this nation has gone far from the Pilgrims and from the Puritans and from the people that came here seeking God and seeking religious freedom. We're a long way from them. And, you know, I mean, the way it's taught today, I mean, America, there were no religious people that came to the New World. But you know what? This country was settled by religious people. And the atheists have to just get over that, because that's a fact. Even the Catholics came here for religious freedom because they were being persecuted in England. So this is a place where people have come to worship God. And, you know, we're not there anymore. You can't even say God. You can say Allah. You can't say God. You can't have a Bible. You can have a Quran. You can wear a headcloth in school. You can have prayer time. But not the Christians, boy. We're the enemy now. So we're just like Isaiah. Good is evil and evil is good. Everything has been reversed. And so Jesus said, when you see that, I mean, we're almost there. I don't know when Jesus is coming, but he can come any day for me. I'm ready. I want out. You know, because I don't see much hope of anybody reforming anything for very long. You know, I could be wrong. God's got a plan. He can do what he wants. But, you know, we're just in another election cycle with all the politicians going to church, knocking on our doors, asking for our vote. We're going to do this and we're going to change that. And you know what? We're just the rubes that give them the vote and then they go on down the road. So that's probably where I better stop and shut up, because I'm getting upset. But you know it is. They do it every time. They come around and they act like, oh, you know, we need you, we need them evangelicals, and we got to have, you know, we want your vote. And you can't find them with radar. So
full sermons are available anytime at www.anchoredinfaith.org. Contact us by calling 319-828-4815 or write us at Anchored in Faith, P.O. Box 204, Oxford, Iowa 52322, or email us at tv@anchoredinfaith.org. This has been a copyrighted presentation of Anchored in Faith Gospel Church, Oxford, Iowa.